Hello, my name is Cosmin, and in this video I would like to talk about the game engine of my choice, which is the Godot engine used to finish my game Future Unknown. For those of you who are not familiar with it or have not heard of it, Godot engine is a free-to-use engine to create all of your game projects, be them free or commercials, which again is a bonus because you don't have to give anything back if you have it like on some sort of store or whatnot. One of the reasons that I chose Godot engine was as a response to a challenge that I set to myself in learning new tools and getting new skills which I might apply in my future endeavors. Now, the first thing that I want to cover is the workflow, which feels a lot easier compared to more popular engines such as Unity. I feel like Unity is really good for triple, actually anywhere from indie projects up to AAA games, whereas Godot Engine, at least at the stage that it's in, and considering that it's still a tool in development, is more of an indie tool to maybe a 1A game engine. But yeah, it's still a great engine, and the workflow feels a lot easier than the Unity workflow. And again, this is just my opinion. I haven't used Unity in quite a while, so it might have been improvements on it, but what I'm talking about is this engine. Now, the way that Godot works is on a basis of nodes. You have a main global node, which you cannot see here. You have a main global node, which then diverges in multiple scenes, like you have this intro interface, then you have the enhancement shop, uh, then you'll have this scene which is actually not the node of this enhancement shop scene, which is the first level actually. So yeah, that's how Godot engine works. And the main node of a scene can be whichever node suits your purposes at that respective time. But it is important to note that if you attach a script to it, make sure you select a node that is useful for you and that suits your purposes, because not all nodes have the same properties. Which this is another bonus for Godot, because as you can see, there's plenty of nodes here that suit a whole range of purposes. The control nodes are basically for graphic user interface, spatial is with 3D space and what you might need in them, and some of the stuff that you might actually end up creating in other game engines are already done here. So that was for 3D. This is again for graphic user interface, and Node 2D is the one that I mainly used and which helped me in creating my game. So just select the main node that you need, and if you're creating a script that needs to be applied throughout the scene, make sure that mother node has all your properties necessary for your scope. So another thing for those nodes is important to note, and I only found this with Godot so far, is the usage of signals, which are basically functions or methods which can be transferred to any other script within the scene. So this is not only applicable here in the script that is attached to the main mother node, I can might as well just apply a script over here, then I can just connect like the input event from the select level one and this collider, and then I can just cancel the collider, disable the collider by just going like play collider dot disabled is true. And yeah, this is really helpful. And since we're on this, now I want to switch to a secondary point of Godot, which is the script. The engine uses its own script, which I would say is pretty close to pseudocode, so it's really easy to pick up and learn in that case. And it's also pretty similar to Python, and it's not hard to learn, and it more than suits its purpose for which was created. You can also have some plugins which allow you to code in Python if that is your thing, and Godot also has an officially supported C# version as well for Mono. So if you are switching from Unity, like I said before, you can just use C#. But as you can see, I'm going through some of this, and there's not a lot of complicated in terms of naming and whatnot. Most of the naming is just however you want it. I usually put them like gambling them basic if that's my building, and then I try to rename the nodes to suit my needs in that respective part. So yeah, the script used is definitely a big advantage. What I would say about the script is that they're only usable within the scene. If you need to access a node in another scene, that can only be done by a long phrase of uh, something along the lines of get tree and then get fruit of the tree and then get node from there, in which you have to have the name of the node or scene, and then you have to get node again in that to get Yarrow. The short version would just be to put like point point point, but you still need the name of the node of the scene, so it was quite heavy, so I couldn't do a lot with that. In terms of scripting, in project settings, you also have an autoload option, which you can create, say, for example, you wanted to create a mouse node like I did, and which helped me. Like, there we go. Global scene. Like, you can just create this mouse node, and if you want it to be applied throughout the whole scene, instead of instantiating it in each scene, you can just make it a singleton, which means it's applied throughout the whole game as it's needed. As you can see, it's pretty simple, 3 nodes, and then just a nice little code to hide the mouse and then to match the position with the global mouse position. As you can see, the methods themselves are really quite descriptive, so that's why I found this a lot easier to pick up. As as a short tip, I would say divide your work. Just create scenes for scenes, as it's a lot easier than just managing one whole big window here. Like I have this interactable, which I created its own scene with its own dialogue, and then I just uh, attached it here through this instance scene file as a node. It's a lot helpful in managing your properties, and if you need to modify something, you can just do it. And this is particularly helpful now after I finish this. If I wanted to create like something which can easily be reused within the game. So that's one of my tips. Compare, compart. Actually, yeah, just divide your work as necessary. As with all engines, it also has its drawbacks, and it's probably just 2 sure ones that I found so far. And I don't think I'll probably find anything particularly nagging is scripts, as I mentioned before, that it cannot be used globally. Like, if you need to get a signal from one scene to the other, you actually have to do a lot of moving around by just getting editable children, for example, then going to your respective component, and then just going node, and then just get your signal or whatnot. But if you have something that you need specifically connected in code, it's not really practical because you have to get that big line over there. And besides that, there is quite a lack of documentation compared to other engines like Unreal and Unity, but it's getting there, and it's probably going to improve over time as the engine starts getting more and more features. Another tip that I would say is use themes. and don't use them individually for each element of graphic user interfaces like the control nodes. Okay, because that's one of the problems. I need to implement the writing that you see over here. I need to implement them into the graphic user interface boxes, and I did the mistake of doing of opening each scene and doing it for each in part, whereas I could have just simply just go theme, game theme, do all my stuff that I needed here, make it look nice like this, and then just save it, and then just apply it globally by going to project, uh, project settings, general, and then graphic user interface theme. So that would have been a lot easier, but due to the fact that I managed just each scene in part and just gave me like an error trying to apply globally. So yeah, that as soon as you know the general idea of how you want your graphic user interface to look, just create it and just put it in there and don't apply anything unless you actually need to have changes to the graphic user interface for a specific object. And another tip is colliders are your friends, especially if you have a lot of interactables like I did, and I needed to have usage of a lot of signals. Plus, colliders are your friends because it just stops people, the player just from walking around. And you just attach it to a physical body, which is then pickable, meaning that the mouse can enter the area, and then the mouse entered the area, a signal can be sent back. So yeah, use colliders, but make sure you don't overdo it. Use only as many as necessary, because else it might slow down your game. Like this is one of the errors that I made in the first game, just applying a whole collider over here, when I could have instead just do like this short type of thing. So yeah, managing colliders really well. And one other thing I want to cover is just the fact that Godot, like Unity and probably Unreal, has its own asset library. It was really helpful. The only thing that I used from this asset library was basically the dialog tree editor. And then in the project library, I used some of the examples to just get of an idea of how I could do certain things. So this is what I mean. It's really easy to pick up and just do it. So that dialog tree editor, as soon as you install it, you just go to project settings, and then plugins, and you activate it here, and voila, that's done. So this was the main stuff. So I am really thankful to him, Alexander, who did dialog tree editor, which again is free, as Godot engine itself is a free engine, and all of its plugins are free to use. And yes, going back, the dialog system was really easy for the interactions. All in all, I would say that this engine more than fitted its purpose for my challenge of learning new stuff. And I would recommend to everybody who is looking to create an indie game, because it's easy to pick up and a lot more easier to hack your way around than Unity is, especially coding wise. So feel free to use it as you see fit, and good luck with it.